Well, now we got a picture up. Let's go with this next assignment. The series of 6, where you're going to produce 6 different pictures that have objects in them that are of the same nature or theme. For example, you might choose 6 different fruits: an apple, an orange, a banana, grapes, and a pineapple. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to find images and put them together and have a similar headline for fruit, and then you would have a subheadline that would say an apple a day keeps a doctor away, or whatever you want to make up. And then you have a background, whether it's a solid color or a gradiated color, or perhaps an image that you take off of the internet or find some source for the background image. Now the one I have up here is the start of a series of 6 called Convertible. It has a Porsche Convertible, and there is the word convertible, the Porsche logo sitting here, and the subheadline Porsche Sportster. You can see that if I turn off all of the images over here, the one that I've worked on, I'm back down to just this orange background. I can add the sunset as far as the picture that I've taken off. Now my format size is 7 inches by 5 inches. And the resolution is, for now, 400. It might get smaller if you're going to send this off to a printer. But I add the sunset. I add another layer here that is gray with a lighter gray that would resemble a parking lot and a curb near the beach. This is the original picture that I got off the internet with a Porsche. And what I did then is I took that Porsche and I cut it out using the polygonal lasso tool. I went around carefully and cut out sections of the car, including the tires. Don't go around the whole car. You might have a problem with it closing on itself. Take out little sections. I took out the windshield as well. And with the windshield, I have another layer that's this green layer right here that is actually shaped to fit inside the windshield. And the layer that is the windshield is at like 30% opacity. I take the opacity, click on that, and slide it down so I get a transparent so I can see through it, but it's tinted a little bit of green there. So cutting out the object, in this case the car, I then with that picture came a shadow. Well, it wasn't a real shadow. I manufactured this oval shadow underneath it so it looked like it's on the ground and touching the ground. I used the word convertible. I put that there and I split it in half. I use a little some of the filters that make the bevel edges, but I didn't like that as well as one I made that was solid metal looking like chrome, what's called a nameplate on the back of a car. And I made the word convertible and then put a bevel edge on it and a little drop shadow. You can see here in this layer I have the drop shadow effect and I have the bevel effect. So I'm adding that, and I'm adding the drop shadow from the filter effects down here in the bottom of the layer thing. You can select from some of these filters. I put in the Porsche logo that I got off the internet and cut that in, cut out the all around it and placed that on that layer. And let's see, then there's the layer that says about, where's the type layer? There's Porsche, special Porsche. And so those then add up to form this one picture, my series of 6. Now, here's the series. Here's the second one. It's Morgan with the word Morgan Phaeton on the Pantheon on the subheadline. The word convertible, same font. This picture originally had this stone wall here was much higher. I've cropped it down to the 5x7. But before I cropped it, I took this picture, the outline of this picture, and went up into the gray stone area and made a cookie cutter copy, and brought it down and set it here, and used with that also the drop shadow, the outer glow to make it's kind of a blue outer glow to match the blue of the car, and the bevel and emboss thing. Now let's see, there's the Imperial, the old Imperial 500. This The car, the picture, everything. I used the background that came with the picture of the car, but I put the word convertible in here, and I made it the same color, this greenish gray of the car there. The Austin Healey convertible, I cut out the Austin Healey nameplate that's here on the front of the hood, and laid that in there. You can still read convertible, and here's the subheadline, the car's name. The Volkswagen convertible, I've cut a lot of things out of this. Let me show you the buildup of the layers here. I started with this early morning lake vapors rising off the lake. I added a line back here that sort of separates the foreground from the background. I put in the car. Now the car came with some dirt in a background. I cut the dirt here, went over the top of the car. They had windshield and around the headrest and around the back, and then came out here and left the dirt and shadow there. So the car comes with its own bottom half, and then it breaks at that purple barrier right here, and then you see the top part. The word convertible is there in sort of a purple, but I didn't go with that because I went back again and used the chrome looking convertible, but I did find a Volkswagen Bug logo and put it on the side there. And the last thing is the subheadline, which now is above in the sky, the windy blowy bug for this particular car. You have to be careful too of the lighting on the car. You can see the lighting is coming over my shoulder in this background picture, and it's coming over my shoulder on the car. The reflections in the car are similar to what you would see in this forest area. It's not a big issue. If the reflection in the car was a palm tree, that would be a problem, and you'd have to go in Photoshop and alter that image perhaps in the reflection. The next one is an old convertible Buick, and again the car and the background that it came with is the whole picture. I did put convertible in that font I used, but I changed the O to match the red on the wheel where the hubcap meets the white wall tire, and change that color just of that one letter to make that stand out more. The last one is a Corvette with a I've got a background that started off that was sort of a pink background, but then I added one where I took this dark color of the paint job and the light color of the paint job. Here's the light paint and there's the dark paint as far as reflections when the picture was taken, and made that as a background for the car itself. Again, the car, this car was cut out. The ones that had their own background I didn't, but there's some cutting going on here to make that work. And then the word convertible, and I took the logo of the word and the logo itself. Let's see, that's right here. That was taken off the internet, and the background cut away, and then made a layer here, and that finishes off the picture. Now let me show you how you find these objects. I'm going to go to the Safari internet connection, and I would Google search on images. And let's say I wanted to do the fruit thing, and I wanted a apple, so A-P-P-L-E, and remember I'm in images, and so I say search, and it's going to go find anything that says apple on it. I like to have the size, not all sizes. I like to look at the ones in large or even extra large, so I have a really good image to choose from. And so now I'm in the larger images, and you might have to scroll through because anything with the word apple on it is going to show up, and I don't want Apple computer per se. I just want an apple. And so at the bottom of the page you can find you can click there's several pages here. There's 10, 11, or 12. Let's say I wanted that apple right there. I click on that apple, and it opens that website where the apple came from. Now I'm going to see the full size. I'm going to click on that, and I'm interested in the full size. Okay, there's the apple that I want to use. Now I hold my finger on the control key and click on the picture, and I go to this one that says Save Image As, and I open that up, and it'll say, what do you want to call it? I'm going to call it, it's got a name, I don't know what P apple is, but I'm going to say just apple. And red, I don't need that much either, so I'll just take that off, apple. Now I'm going to send it to the desktop. so I know where it is, and I hit save, and that apple, the whole picture has gone to the desktop. Now what I need to do is go to the desktop and find it. There's the apple picture, and I've got to process this. So I bring this down and put it back in Photoshop, lay it on top of the Photoshop document there, or just get it opened in Photoshop so that it opens up in the Photoshop itself. Now I have to process the picture. For one thing, I'm going to go to image and image size, and I want this to be, I'm going to go for like the height about 4 inches. It's just going to be very large, so I'm going to go 4 inches. The resolution, I'm going to change that to 400. So in this chain on here, whatever I say the height of the width is, the other dimension comes with it, so that it's in ratio. But I will set it at 400. Then I hit OK, and that apple is converted into that picture. I have now to take away the black background, and to do that I have to come here to the one layer that I'm working on, and I can't work on the background when it's locked, so click on the background and just call it apple and rename that layer. The lock is gone. Add one more layer. Layer 1 comes here, drag it down so it's underneath the apple. I've got an orange over here in my foreground color. I use orange or red or green or something light color so I can separate the difference. I'm going to put that orange on this layer. Option delete puts the foreground color on that layer. Then I'm going back to the apple layer and taking my polygonal lasso tool, and I'm going to carefully come around and cut out what I call a rough cut. I'm not working on the actual edge here. I just want to take away the majority of the black that I don't want. I want the apple all by itself. Now when I've done this, I've trapped all of this area inside here, so I have to go to select and say inverse, and that makes it switch to the negative space out here. And be sure you're on the apple layer, so you're going to remove that black part, delete it, delete key, and then go back in and click with your cursor so the marching ants go away. Now you come back in very tight with your zoom tool, and take your polygonal lasso tool and come in and just start. Oh, before you start that, let me also point out, be sure that when your polygonal lasso tool is open, that this is 1 pixel. Make sure that it's 1, not 0, because it might be a 0 when you open it up for default. So make sure it's 1, and hit the return key to make sure that locks in. Because you want a slightly fuzzy edge on this thing. You don't want to be a sharp, clean thing, or else it's a problem. Now, you carefully go around this shape, and whatever the shape offers you, whether it's easy, like the apple's going to be, or whether it's feathers or hair or grass or something, you have to be very careful as you cut out. Your cutting out skills will grow with experience, but I'm clicking and releasing this little series of straight lines that goes around this shape that is now the apple stem. And when I get here, then I'll continue on. Now don't try to do the whole thing all at once. That could prove to be a problem. Come back out and close back. When you close back, that little 0 shows up, meaning you've connected it, and hit the delete key, and away you go. Now I'm not going to take the time here to do the whole apple. I'm going to back off on this, but eventually you go around and take off all the black that's there, and you have the apple ready to be used as a object. When you get it through, File, Save As, and it's still called Apple, and it's still going to the desktop, but when you save it, now you've saved it without the black background, and you virtually have 2. If I turn off the orange, you can see that the apple, when the black is gone, it will remain as the apple. And if you want to move that apple to your image, you take your magic wand tool. Make sure you have the magic wand tool, not the quick selection tool. It's also in that box. And click on the negative space, and you get all the outside space. If there's some negative space that was inside as well, you're going to hit select similar, and that'll pick up the inside stuff. Then the next thing is select inverse, and you see it's picked up the apple. Now remember, I have not cut away all the black there, so that's going to come with it. But you will have done that, and so all you have is the apple. You hit Command C, you copy that, And then you can go back to, let's go back to the Corvette picture, and I'll make a new layer up here. And that layer, eventually I would label that Apple, but if I hit Command V, the Apple comes in. Now I can, with my Move tool, make sure my Show Transform Controls is checked on. I see the bounding box. I can now size this, and whatever my use is going to be, apply that because I changed its size. I can, set this on the hood of the car, and if I want it behind the word convertible, I can lower it down underneath the word, and now it's behind the car. For whatever reason I would have done that, I'm not sure, but that's how you get your object. Like the car was shaved and cut and then brought to this format, and so was the word convertible, so was the flag, so was everything else. So that's how you bring something across, and then once it's there, of course, you're going to name that, instead of layer 4, you're going to name it Apple. Now I'm not going to leave that here because that isn't necessarily part of my original. I'm just showing you how to bring it to a level. So with that, I'm going to throw the Apple layer away so I don't have to have that permanently installed in my convertible. Let's go back to that first one, and remember, when you open up your first image that you're going to work on, you go to File, New, and open a page. And if I go File, New, and I say, all right, I want this to be in inches, not pixels, so I select inches, and I say my width is going to be 7 inches, and my height is going to be 5, all 7 by 5, and 400 resolution. Then when I open that, I get that new image, and that's the size. I take background and click on that and just call it back, and it's now a workable layer or level, and the lock is gone. As you add layers and name them and add them as you put them in there, you're working on this. Make sure it's 7 inches wide and 5 inches deep, and that your object's in the middle, your headline is there, and your subheadline is someplace, and whatever else you're going to put in the picture, a background picture, or a background that comes with a car, or just a color background, or a gradiated color background, that's up to you. Keep your choices simple and don't get too busy in cutting things out, but produce a series of 6 with the object, with the headline, and the headline will be the same in each one. You can vary the color of the headline, but probably keep the same typeface. And then the subheadline is the same typeface, but it says different things pertinent to that image that you're working with. And then when you get all that through, I want you to do this too. Save it with all of the layers, and you keep those layers in case you want to go back in later and fix and fiddle or diddle with it, update it, take parts out of it. But what you send to me, you go up here to this little button on the upper right of the layer box, and that's the options button, and click on that and say flatten the image. Now watch what happens. All the images flatten down, and it's now a background locked layer. That's the one you're gonna send to me. And not only will you send it to me that way, but you're going to say File, Save As. Now if you were saving this for yourself with all the layers, you would just save it as a Photoshop document and save it, in this case, going to the desktop or wherever file you're going to put it to. But what I want you to do is save it with the layers, then go back and flatten the image, and then open it again as Save As, and this time it's still the untitled one, but you're going to save it here. You're going to add up in that title an underscore and a small f to show that it's flattened. And then you're going to take Photoshop and you're going to save it as a JPEG, not as a Photoshop document, but JPEG. So now you have it saved as something with an F on the end of it and the JPEG format, and it's going to go to the desktop until you get ready to send it to me. And save that. And you see, and it also asks you what kind of options you want. If you want the highest of the maximum quality, it goes from 0 to 12. Make sure that slider bar is all the way to the right, maximum 12, and you OK that. And now it is saved as the untitled one, underscore F as a JPEG, and you're sending me JPEG documents here. I don't see the layers, I see the result, but it's a lot easier to send it that way because it's not such a big document. Otherwise, Photoshop documents can get very large very quick. So let's see. I want to go back to that apple is saved now, and I keep that in a file of all of the images I'm using for a particular project. So the series of 6 then is a image, a background of color or picture that you want to sit there, or an altered picture somehow, the headline, the subheadline. If there is a logo or a file or a nameplate or something that you can use it or decorate it in some way, but I'm looking at the image is the most important thing. So this is that series of 6 project, and you're going to eventually send me a file with 6 documents in it that are JPEG flattened documents of your 6 chosen objects for your series of 6.